Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something real plain. If another woman is able to get close to your man, that situation didn't start with her. It started with him. Now, I know that might sting a little bit, but we got to stop pretending like some woman just floated out of the sky, hypnotized this man, and stole him from a loving relationship. No. That door was cracked open long before she ever knocked. And if she got close, baby, it's because he let her. If another woman got close, it's because he allowed it. That's the reality a lot of people don't want to face, but it's the truth. Men don't fall into temptation like it's some accident. It doesn't happen suddenly. There are signs, choices, small disloyalties that build up long before anything physical ever takes place. A man has to make space in his heart and in his life for another woman to even feel comfortable enough to get close. That doesn't just happen out of nowhere. He chose that direction. He opened the door, maybe not wide at first. Maybe it started with a harmless message, a compliment here, a joke there. Maybe it was late night conversations masked as friendship. But slowly, consistently, that space that was supposed to be protected and sacred for you, he gave that to someone else. You see, a man who is truly committed is also protective, not just of your body, your image, or your time, but of your peace. A man who really sees your worth guards your relationship like it's treasure. He doesn't play with fire and then act shocked when he gets burned. So when another woman gets close, it's not just about what she did. It's about what he allowed. It's about what he entertained. And it's about what he risked for something that didn't even come close to the love you were offering. People like to say, well, if the relationship was perfect, he wouldn't have looked elsewhere. But let's be honest. Relationships aren't perfect. Every couple has struggles, but a man's character is revealed not when everything is going well, but when things get tough, when stress shows up, when communication breaks down, when attention fades. That's when you find out if he's a man who works through problems or a man who looks for escape route. If he's the kind who fixes leaks or jumps ship. And if he let someone else get close, then he didn't just fail you, he failed the promises he made to you. You may want to ask yourself, why did he let her in? And while that's a fair question, don't sit in it too long, because the answer won't change the damage. It won't fix the betrayal, and it surely won't justify it. What matters more is what you see now, what you choose to tolerate, what you're willing to rebuild, and what you need to walk away from. You didn't sign up to be in a relationship where someone else had the kind of access that was supposed to be yours alone. You didn't invest your time, your energy, your prayers, your love, just to be an option while someone else gets to experience the parts of your man that were meant only for you. And no, it's not always about physical cheating. Sometimes emotional closeness is even worse, because that means your man started confiding in her, started opening up to her, started depending on her in ways he used to depend on you. That's a different kind of betrayal. And the truth is, if he allowed another woman to fill the space that used to belong to you, then you need to seriously consider whether he deserves to be close to you anymore. There's a line every loyal man draws. And if your man blurred that line, stepped over it, or erased it altogether, then don't waste your energy blaming the woman who walked through the open door. Focus on the man who held it open in the first place. Focus on the one who made room for someone else in a space you trusted him to protect. A good man will build a fence around his relationship. A weak man will build a gate, and the moment he opened it for someone else to get close, that was the moment he made a decision. A decision that says more about him than it ever will about you. Emotional or physical closeness requires choice, effort, and intention. It doesn't just happen. People love to pretend like things just happen in relationships, like emotions sneak up and catch us off guard. But that's not how real life connection works, especially not in committed relationships. For another woman to get close to your man, he had to allow it. He had to choose it. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. It takes intention to build closeness with someone, whether it's emotional or physical. There are too many checkpoints where he could have stopped it. Too many moments he could have chosen you, chosen loyalty, chosen boundaries. But he didn't. And every time he decided to reply to that message, stay a little longer in that conversation, share just a little more about his life, his thoughts, or his feelings, he was choosing that closeness. Emotional intimacy is built on layers: honesty, vulnerability, consistency. That doesn't grow overnight. So when your man says, we're just friends, or it didn't mean anything, that's not the whole truth. Because it took a whole lot of decisions, a lot of time, and a whole lot of energy for that other woman to feel safe enough, close enough, and important enough to matter. He didn't just slip, he invested in her. He gave her the kind of energy that should have been reserved for you. That's not an accident. That's not weakness. That's a willful disconnect from his own responsibility. And let's talk about physical closeness too. That doesn't just happen either. You don't just wake up and end up in someone else's arms. You don't trip and land in a bed that doesn't belong to you. You plan for that. You hide it. You lie for it. You make time for it. That's not a mistake. That's a process. That's preparation. And if your man went through all of that, it means his choices were deliberate. That's a level of betrayal that starts long before any physical act. It starts in the heart, in the mind. In the moment when he stopped choosing you and started entertaining someone else. People like to downplay emotional cheating because it's not as obvious or dramatic as physical betrayal. But here's the truth. It cuts deeper because a physical act can be over in a moment. But emotional intimacy is grown. It means your man started sharing pieces of himself with someone else. Pieces he used to share with you. Maybe he started laughing more with her. Maybe he started turning to her when he was stressed instead of turning to you. Maybe he started daydreaming about a life that didn't include you. That's not just cheating, that's replacing. And sometimes that hurts more than anything else. It's also not always about what she gave him. It's about what he was willing to give her. He gave her space. He gave her access. He gave her time, attention, emotion, or affection. And every ounce of that belonged to the relationship you were trying to build. He knew better. He just didn't do better. Because every single act of closeness, whether a text, a call, a coffee, a conversation, or a kiss, it all took planning. And if a man can plan that much effort for someone else, you have to ask yourself, why didn't he put that same energy into protecting what you had? So no, don't let him convince you it was meaningless. Don't let him downplay it like it wasn't a choice. Because everything about closeness, real closeness, is intentional. He intended to let her in. And if he could do that so easily, then maybe he wasn't as committed to you as he said. Maybe he liked the idea of being in a relationship but didn't have the discipline to honor it. Maybe he loved the comfort of you but not the responsibility or staying faithful to you. And that's not your failure. That's his. Because connection doesn't fall from the sky. It's built. It's maintained. And if it happened with someone else, it's because he built it somewhere else with effort, with intention, with choice. Don't focus on the other woman. Focus on the cracks in your relationship that allowed entry. It's natural to feel angry, betrayed, even obsessed with the idea of who she is. You might scroll through her social media, compare yourself to her, wonder what she has that you don't. But the truth is, the other woman is not the problem. She's not the one who owed you loyalty. She's not the one who made promises to love, protect, and honor you. That was him. So when you find yourself asking, who is she? Start asking instead, what happened in my relationship that made room for her? Because it wasn't her presence that broke the trust. It was his permission that gave her access. The cracks don't always show up overnight. Sometimes they form slowly over time. A missed date here, a distracted answer there. A subtle change in how he looks at you, talks to you, or listens. Maybe he started becoming emotionally unavailable. Maybe he stopped sharing his thoughts and started shutting down. Maybe your arguments turned into silence or your laughter turned into small talk. Those cracks might have looked small at first, but they were warning signs. And when a relationship has unaddressed pain, unspoken resentments, or growing distance, it becomes vulnerable. Vulnerable to distractions, vulnerable to temptation, vulnerable to attention from outside sources. It's in those cracks that someone else slips in. And let's be clear, not every relationship that experiences cracks falls apart. But when a man isn't willing to repair those cracks, when he doesn't communicate, reconnect, or show up with the same emotional effort, that's when the foundation starts to break. It's not always about cheating, it's about neglect. Because before anyone can steal your man, he has to start stepping away. Not all at once, but little by little. He starts forgetting how much you've given. He starts taking for granted the way you've held him down. He starts acting like he's single in small, quiet ways. Until suddenly, someone else has taken the emotional space you used to occupy. You can spend your energy trying to outshine the other woman. You can change your looks, your clothes, your tone, your attitude, but all of that won't matter if you don't understand where the breakdown truly happened. Competing with her won't fix what broke between you and him, because she's not the root, she's the symptom. The root is in the conversations that stopped happening, the touch that faded, the trust that slowly eroded. The root is in the way your man handled the struggles of the relationship, the way he turned away instead of toward you when things got difficult. That's where the real work is. Not in dragging her name, but in understanding what space she was allowed to fill. There's nothing wrong with wanting answers. There's nothing wrong with feeling pain, confusion, or even rage. But don't let that anger blind you from the bigger picture. This is about accountability, about recognizing that your relationship isn't just something that runs on autopilot. It requires attention, effort, communication, and honesty. And when that stops happening, the connection starts leaking. What you do next determines everything. You can either get stuck in a cycle of blame and shame and revenge, or you can take a deep breath, step back and ask yourself what you need, not to win him back, not to prove your worth, but to heal, to reflect, and to choose whether this relationship is even worthy of you anymore. Because if there were cracks, he should have been sealing them, not creating more. If there was distance, he should have been building bridges, not burning them. And if he truly cared, no one else would have felt invited in. So stop blaming the guests and start looking at the host. Because a man who values what he has will protect it, period. He won't leave gaps for anyone else to fill. He won't give pieces of himself to someone else while you sit at home wondering what went wrong. The truth is, he let her in. And the only question that matters now is, what will you do with that truth? A loyal man won't entertain distractions. He protects and prioritizes his woman. When a man truly values his relationship, he treats it like a sacred space. He's not careless with his time, his words, or his energy. He knows what he has, and he doesn't gamble with it. Loyalty isn't just about saying, I love you and sticking around. It's about guarding what's his from anything that threatens its peace. A man who loves you doesn't allow another woman to feel like she has a chance. He doesn't flirt with attention, doesn't play games with temptation, and doesn't risk what he built with you for some passing moment of excitement. There are men who know how to be physically present but emotionally missing. They'll say all the right things, they'll show up for the pictures, they'll play the part, but deep down their mind and heart are somewhere else. That's not loyalty, that's performance. And a performance will always end when the audience changes. A loyal man doesn't just stay faithful when it's easy, he stays faithful when it's hard, when he's stressed, when he's bored, when life feels routine. He stays faithful because he made a decision to love with intention, not convenience. See, temptation is always going to be out there. There will always be someone who seems more exciting, more available, more fun, more new. But a man who's rooted in his values won't be shaken by temporary distractions. He doesn't let attention from another woman get in his head because he's already full of appreciation for what he has, full of respect for the woman by his side, and full of commitment to the relationship he's building. That's real manhood. That's maturity. Not just saying I won't cheat, but living every day in a way that proves. A lot of people don't understand that protection in a relationship isn't always about physical safety. Sometimes it's emotional protection, protecting your woman from insecurity, from doubt, from the fear that she's not enough. When a man is loyal, he gives her peace. She doesn't have to wonder where he is, who he's texting, what he's hiding. Her heart rests easy because his actions match his words. He's not sending mixed signals to other women, and he's not giving anyone else emotional access to the parts of him that belong to her. Let's be honest. Some men want to be in a relationship, but still want to feel like they've got options. They want to keep their foot in the door of attention just in case they feel unappreciated for a moment. But that's not loyalty, that's insecurity. A real man doesn't need backup plans. He doesn't need attention from the outside to feel validated. He builds with one woman, and he gives her the kind of love that's consistent, not conditional. He isn't afraid to shut down distractions because he knows what he's invested in. So when a woman comes around trying to flirt, trying to create closeness, trying to make herself known, a loyal man doesn't just ignore it. He shuts it down. Immediately, he sets the boundary without hesitation, not because he's scared of getting caught, but because he knows who he is and what he's committed to. He doesn't give mixed signals. He doesn't lead her on, and he doesn't play the game. He's already off the market, and he acts like it in every space he walks into. Whether his woman is around or not, he represents her. That's what loyalty looks like. You don't have to beg a loyal man to act right. You don't have to check his phone, track his location, or compete for his focus, because his focus is already set. He's got tunnel vision when it comes to you. And if he ever starts entertaining distractions, you'll feel it. You'll notice the shift, because a man can't serve two emotional connections at the same time without one suffering. If he's entertaining someone else, then he's no longer protecting what he has with you. And that's not loyalty. That's betrayal, wearing a polite face. Don't shrink yourself to keep someone who's already drifting. Let them go gracefully. When someone starts to slip away emotionally, spiritually, or physically, it's natural to feel a sense of panic. You start thinking, what can I do to fix this? How can I change to keep them close? But here's the truth that's hard to swallow. When someone is already halfway out the door, begging them to stay will only push you further into a space of self-neglect. It's not your job to convince someone to value what you bring to the table. And if you have to start shrinking yourself just to keep the peace, you're not in love. You're in survival mode. It begins with small compromises. You stop speaking your mind because you don't want to sound too emotional. You stop asking for what you need because you're afraid of pushing him away. You even start blaming yourself for his distance, thinking if you were prettier, calmer, more exciting, maybe he wouldn't be so detached. And that's a lie we tell ourselves when we're trying to hold on to someone who's no longer holding on to us. And little by little, you lose your voice, your identity, your joy, just to keep someone who's not even trying to stay. And the most heartbreaking part, you start measuring your worth by his inconsistency. One day he's warm, the next day he's cold. One moment you feel chosen, the next you feel invisible. That emotional roller coaster becomes your new normal, and before long, you're not even fighting for the relationship, you're just fighting to be noticed. That is not love. That's emotional depletion disguised as commitment. You can't keep filling a cup that keeps leaking from the bottom. And you sure can't build a future with someone whose interest in you comes and goes like a season. There comes a moment when you have to choose your dignity over your desperation. You have to stop auditioning for a role you already earned. You don't need to dance, perform, or plead for someone to see your worth. If he's not choosing you fully, freely, and consistently, then let him go. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of respect for yourself. Because when a man is drifting, chasing him won't bring him back. If anything, it'll just drain you more. And the more you lose yourself in trying to win him, the more power you give away. You were not created to be a placeholder. You were not born to be almost enough. You're not here to be convenient, quiet, or easy to handle. You were made to love fully, speak truth, shine brightly, and be loved without apology. The right man won't ask you to shrink. He won't demand silence instead of honesty. He won't punish you for being real. He will meet your energy. He will match your heart. He will make you feel safe in your truth, not scared of your vulnerability. Sometimes letting go isn't about giving up. It's about honoring yourself. It's about understanding that love should never cost you your peace, your voice, or your self-respect. If a man can't see your value while you're standing in front of him, then distance won't help him either. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't love deeply. It means you finally loved yourself enough to walk away from what was draining you, because holding on to someone who's disconnected will never restore the connection. It only creates more pain. The right man won't need convincing. He won't make you question where you stand. He won't pull away when things get hard. And if he does drift, he'll find his way back, not because you begged, but because he realized what he risked losing. Until then, protect your light, keep your head high, don't shrink, don't beg, don't settle. Let him go gracefully and trust that your peace is far more valuable than any relationship that costs you your sense of self. You don't lose value because someone failed to see it. You rise, you heal, and you move on. One of the most damaging lies we tell ourselves after betrayal is that we weren't enough. That somehow if we had been more beautiful, more loving, more exciting, more anything, then he wouldn't have looked elsewhere. But the truth is, your value is not measured by someone else's ability to honor it. Your worth doesn't shrink because he failed to recognize it. That failure is his reflection, not yours. What he couldn't appreciate, someone else will see as rare, precious, and powerful. It's easy to internalize someone's disloyalty and turn it into self-blame. You start overthinking every interaction. You wonder if you were too much or not enough. You replay moments searching for where you went wrong. But let's be real. The decision to betray you, to entertain another woman, to pull away emotionally, that wasn't something you caused. That was something he chose. A man who is whole, grounded, and loyal does not waver because he faces. He stays committed, even in discomfort. He works through problems. He talks. He listens. He doesn't go looking for comfort in someone else's arms while leaving you confused and hurting. You may feel broken now, like you've been replaced or overlooked, but that's not the truth of who you are. A woman who shows up with love, loyalty, and heart is not replaceable. She's irreplaceable. Just because someone mishandled your heart doesn't mean it was worthless. You brought real value to the table. You gave your time, your trust, your laughter, your softness, your strength, and none of that was wasted. Even if it wasn't cherished the way it should have been, your love still mattered, even if he was too distracted to see it. You have to rise above the pain and see yourself clearly again. You're not a second choice. You're not a consolation prize. You're not someone who has to compete for attention or beg for affection. If a man doesn't see your light, it's not because it isn't shining. It's because he's too blind, too lost, or too selfish to recognize it. But don't dim your light just because he couldn't handle the brightness. Don't hide your heart because someone else mistreated it. Don't become hard because of his softness for someone else. Rise anyway. Healing won't happen overnight. There will be days when you miss him. Nights when the silence feels loud, moments when your confidence wavers. That's normal. Healing is not a straight line. It's a journey of rediscovering your power piece by piece. It's about learning to trust yourself again. It's about remembering who you were before someone else made you doubt your worth. It's about creating space for new beginnings without dragging the weight of old wounds. When you rise, you begin to reclaim your identity. You stop asking why he didn't stay and start asking why you would want someone back who could hurt you like that. You start setting higher standards, not because you're bitter, but because you've grown. You start loving yourself in the way you wanted him to love you, deeply, faithfully, and fully. And eventually, the person who left will realize what they walked away from. But by then, you'll be too far along your healing journey to look back. You don't have to prove your value to anyone. You don't have to chase closure or validation. The act of surviving betrayal and choosing to love yourself again is your power. What you do with the pain becomes your story, not one of defeat, but of strength, rebirth, and transformation. The woman you're becoming on the other side of heartbreak is wiser, stronger, and more radiant than ever before. So no, you didn't lose your value. If anything, this pain reminded you of it. You rise because you remember who you are. You heal because you deserve peace. And you move on because love should never be something you have to beg for. The right person will recognize your worth the moment you walk in, not when you walk in out.